Bit delayed on this roundup, but here we go for last week's roundup. 21 pieces of content, just over 6 hours of audio and video that I took in throughout the week to keep on top of everything that's new in AI. So let's just dive right in. This week's AI roundup of all things AI in tech. Spent some time watching and digging into a wide range of videos, from debates about AI's true impact on jobs and industry financial dynamics, to breakthrough updates in quantum computing and new AI platforms. We're stepping outside AI, and there's a bit of quantum news that happened, which was potentially a huge breakthrough. So, one, the future of work and market dynamics. And for those of you who don't know, this is AI generated. I haven't looked at this before, but it helps me just re-solidify in my mind what I took in last week and share it with the team. So let's dive in. So I started with some discussions on the evolving role of AI in the workplace. One video broke down how AI isn't simply about replacing jobs, but transforming roles, with historical examples like radiology and economic principles like Jevons paradox. Zero memory about that. I must have fallen asleep while I was listening to that one. It makes me wonder about how efficiency gains can actually foster new human-centric roles. Well, what's happened in the past is new technologies become available. People want to use it more, so then more jobs get created. Everyone thought tractors were going to be the end of farmers. Farming has only grown exponentially to support the amount of people we need on the earth, and they can farm so much more and so much better with less effort, effectively, because they're not doing it by hand or using animals to plow. Things like that have happened time and time again. Next up, Hank Green, if you know him, he makes some great content online. Did a deep dive into the financial workings of the AI industry that caught my attention. He did an analysis of Nvidia's chip dominance and talked about how the money is going from Nvidia to OpenAI to Nvidia and back, and then all the connected companies and how they're all, yet while unprofitable, huge giant revenue. Like, they commissioned a data center from Oracle with a committed spend of $312 billion. Their revenue forecast for the year is 12. Microsoft didn't want to take on that risk, I think, but Oracle did, which then buys shit from Nvidia. Nvidia gives it to OpenAI, and that's like the money just keeps cycling. They've got so much cash, what else are they going to do with it? Might as well help fund your customers. Also found the real-world AI trading benchmark, where Grok achieved a 5x return in one day on actual stock market trading. So it outperformed the other models in that new benchmark that was online provided. Emerging AI platforms and seamless integration. The landscape of digital tools is also shifting dramatically. ChatGPT is no longer just a chatbot. A couple of videos showcased its evolution into a full-blown platform. So it's got all these add-ons and apps that are being brought into it, with the integration of apps inside of the actual chat. So now it's more of a destination, not just ask a question and get an answer. They've also released their version of a browser last week. So OpenAI Atlas, I think that's what it's called, or is it ChatGPT Atlas? I'm not sure. So Atlas is now a tool like Perplexity Comet. It's a web browser with ChatGPT built in that can draw context from the page that you're looking at. You can ask questions. It can also control the browser. So similar to Agent in the sidebar of ChatGPT, where it can then control the page for you. Some people were saying, a lot of content online saying, look how good it is. Other ones is saying it's like watching a 3-year-old navigate the internet and not knowing what to do, like hovering over a text box and never clicking into it. It's going to evolve. It's the worst it's ever been. Everyone always says that. I've been saying it for 3 years. Today's the worst it's ever going to be. Tomorrow's the worst it's ever going to be. It's always going to get better. Just keep thinking of that. Adding another layer to the ecosystem, Anthropic introduced Claude Skills, which is a modular approach to allow developers to create reusable task packs for agents. So this is a extension of like the rules file. Skills will be a bundle of content that tell it how you can do something, what it can do, so you can then keep consistency across agents if you're working in a team especially. On the more technical side, DeepSeek's breakthrough OCR technology is changing the game by compressing text as images, boosting efficiency and potentially expanding the context window for large language models by 10x. So OCR is optical character recognition. That's the name of the model. Just looking at that, you're not going to think anything special. But what they did was they determined that putting text inside an actual image and having the model read the text out of the image, they could cram up to 10 times more text in the same context length compared to normal models, with I think 97% accuracy, and then it drops down to 67% at 20 times more content. And this is a breakthrough. Again, now a 2 million token window is 10 and 20 million which expands the amount of content. Then we probably need to figure out how to make these models use the content window better. But it's a breakthrough. We may see a shift where all the models take in the text, convert it into images, push that in, and then there's a little bit of overhead in the conversion and the deconversion, but you'll get more content out of it. So it's yet to see what's going to happen, but it's like a decent breakthrough in the space where not much has happened lately because it's just incremental gains on everything. And then we also have Google, where they now have an algorithm called quantum echoes, where they were able to achieve actual real world like tasks being performed using the quantum computer, not just some task that was done in the previous quantum computing model where it's not equivalent to like a real world task. I listened to this whole video. Quantum computing, the qubits, still something I sort of get and don't get. But their whole thing was you flip the bits and then you flip them back. So the qubits get flipped and flipped back, and then that tells you what state they're in. So once you observe them, you know the state. But instead of resetting them back to what it was, it will reset randomly to either what it was or what it wasn't. So it adds like this randomness in. And by having that randomness, it was able to execute tasks quite fast, which would be equivalent to normal computer tasks. That's my super short summary of what I understood out of that video. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. And then there was a couple of videos debating what AGI means. Some people said ChatGPT is 58% AGI. Who the hell knows? Like, AGI is such a term that people aren't very clear on. It's not defined by anyone. No one really knows what it means. And then a lot of people are saying it's going to take 10 years to get to AGI, not a year. Like, it's so unknown, so many different variables. I think the problem is everyone's going for this AGI term or this definition to be the first one to get this computer that can actually learn from itself, rather than having like a dynamic model that learns constantly and updates itself. That is almost that, but not quite, because you're triggering the learning. If you give the AI tools, does that now to do that? Does that then become AGI? Like, it's all up in the air. It's such an unknown term, but that's the direction everyone's heading in. It's where everyone's going. No one knows when it's going to get there, how it's going to happen, but that's what they're doing. And then I watched a couple of videos from YC Combinator, or YC, how you do it, talking about pivoting with their startups and founders that they've had and with the journeys that they've done, understanding that when you're competing in a market, if there's already competitors there, you need to be better than what they do. But you don't have to be better at everything. You just need to be better at one really good thing that it makes people want to use yours, and then you add in everything else. And then there's pivots that people have to do depending on feedback and how much they've developed and where they're going with everything. Didn't cover too much from that. And then there was the AWS outage. So that was a big one at the start of Tuesday last week or Monday night? So the AWS has a data center in America called US East, which is their primary or their first data center. That has a DNS entry, which is effectively like a yellow table or yellow pages or an address lookup for a specific service that people use in AWS called DynamoDB. The entry for that DynamoDB was updated or corrupted, or something happened in that primary zone, and people were only using one region to get that. That went down, so everyone calling that thing could no longer access it, could no longer use it, so all their apps went down. Problem would have been solved if they just did multi-region deployment, so deploying in US East and West, and it would have fixed it. But depending on which part of your applications and how it's running, it's there. AWS didn't have its own failover for that, because that was where a lot of their core services were originally built. It's one of their largest services. It's got a lot of legacy stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that they probably can't shift very easily because it was built when AWS started. So it's quite old and doesn't tie into the new way things are happening. So there will be some big changes there at some point. I guarantee it. So before we wrap up, there's Gemini 3 is something that's going to be approaching soon or being released very soon. Apple released their new M5 chip, which is powering their MacBook Pro, iPad Pro. Meta just fired off a lot of people from their FAIR, which is Facebook AI research department. And then they've got another AI department, which Alexander Wang, which is someone they bought from Scale AI, who's now the chief AI officer, and he's running that instead of the FAIR is getting decommissioned. I think it was 600 people got fired, but they did just do a massive hiring spree and move people around. I think they said that they'll be putting some people and the reapply for jobs inside of Facebook or Meta somewhere else. It says something here about humanoid robots from this company called Unitree. I must have been for listening to that one and didn't pay too much attention, but there's always talks about robots that are using large language models to communicate, so that's always something. So there's plenty going on again. The quantum news is something a bit different. The DeepSeek OCR, again, DeepSeek, the company that did at the start of the year with the reasoning models, again, another breakthrough from that company out of China. It may change the way people do things and these models work to get more content out of them and get more ability. So incremental breakthroughs, things are still happening as usual. Let me know in your comments below. If there's any way you think I can make this a bit more engaging or improve it, please feel free to leave some comments. Otherwise, good luck keeping up with everything.